guys, today I'll be doing my August wrap-up. So I am pretty excited to do my August wrap-up. I read, how many did I read? I read 5 books. That's right, I read 5, which last month I read 4, so that's just like a slight improvement, but like barely, but that's still pretty good. Now, did I read all the books on my TBR for August? I'd have to disagree on that. Just observe. For August, I'm strictly dedicating this month to finishing series. So I did not read or continue one series this month when that was my goal. I don't know what happened. I was supposed to and I just never did. I think the problem was, and I know I'm kind of making excuses, but I had some books that were sent to me, so those were my top priority. I had read-along books, I had readathons that had specific challenges for books. And on top of that, I have very little time. This month has just been so busy, and other books were like top priority. I didn't get around to finishing series, and that was my whole goal. Like, I'm so mad about that. Things got out of hand. Yeah, it was a mess, but oh well, that's just really sad. I've decided that at the beginning of these videos, I'd start doing book statistics, just to give you kind of an idea of like what genres I read, how many books I read that month, and stuff like that. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. So let's go over that. So for the month of August, I read 5 books. 4 of them were novels and 1 was a graphic novel. And I read a total of 1,477 pages. 3 of them were fantasy, 1 of them was a thriller, and 1 of them was a contemporary book. So I read like the most fantasy I've ever read. Really, in 1 month, like 3 fantasy books, and obviously my brain is like overwhelmed because so much fantasy. It's just been a lot. I gave 3 of the books 5 stars, 1 of them 4 stars, and 1 of them 2 stars. Anyway, let's just get on to what books I read. So first, the booktubeathon happened, and the booktubeathon was a really big success. I loved it. I ended up reading 2 books for the booktubeathon. The first book I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And this was the challenge for read someone's favorite book. Before starting the booktubeathon, I had been through half this book already, so I didn't completely read this whole thing during the booktubeathon, just that last half of it. And oh my goodness, this book is one of the books I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. I'm still obsessed with this book. For any of you who do not know for some reason what this book is or what it is about, I will explain it briefly. So this book is about a girl named Feyre who is a hunter. She hunts in the woods because her family is really poor. And one day in the woods, she ends up killing a wolf and brings him back home. But it turns out that this wolf was a fairy, or a fairy as they say in this book. And the number 1 rule is you can never kill a fairy. So one of the high lords of the fairy realm comes and takes Feyre away from her family to his manor, because if you kill a fairy, you have to be taken into custody by them or whatever. And stuff happens from there, which I won't say anymore because it'd be best if you just find out for yourself. And this is actually a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I could really see the Beauty and the Beast elements in it, which were so cool. I love Beauty and the Beast, so I enjoyed this a lot. And even though this was a fantasy, this book has really just opened my eyes to the fantasy genre a lot, because before with fantasy I was not into it at all. I only liked my contemporary books, that was it. But this is just, this is like the first fantasy book I've been like obsessing over. I love it so much. So yeah, 5 out of 5 stars definitely, and I will be giving a review of it next week. I've been meaning to do it, but I've had other books I've needed to review, but next week for sure there will be a review of this up, and I cannot wait to talk about it more in that video. And the next book I read for the booktubeathon was The Owl of the Lost by Melissa de la Cruz, and this completed the challenge of reading a book whose author's last name starts with the first letter of your last name. So D my last name starts with D, so it worked. And this follows the descendants of the Disney villains, which was super interesting. I knew I had to read it just because of that. I ended up really loving this. It was just such good storytelling. I think Melissa de la Cruz wrote this book so well. And I really understood this book well because I don't mean to brag, but I know my Disney really well. So I understood these characters' personalities, even the personalities of the villains' children were so much alike from their parents. It was fun to see, and I just love this. If you have not read it yet, I would recommend it. And this is actually the prequel to a movie called The Descendants that is a Disney Channel movie, and I watched it after I read this, and I loved the movie a lot. It was really, really good. So yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars and absolutely loved it. Then I picked up You're in My Secret by, I cannot pronounce that name because it's, I don't know. It's Morinaga. I probably pronounced that wrong, as I usually do. And I had this for my challenge of reading a book without letting go of it, which if you haven't heard before from my BookTubeathon updates, I failed at that challenge. I put this book down. Yeah, it was pathetic because it's not even a long book, but I did put it down. I really ended up loving this. I loved it more than I actually thought I was going to. This is obviously a manga. This was my one graphic novel I read this month, and this is about 2 high school kids, a boy and a girl, who go under this experiment and accidentally get transferred into each other's bodies. And just from that, I knew it was going to be super funny, and it was so funny. I love this, and I've only read the first volume of this, but I want to continue it if I can find the other volume somewhere, if I can, because it was really good. And I just found it like so awesome that in like this one book that's barely long at all, I got like so hooked on it, because it's really, really short with mangas. In the first volume, it's kind of hard to get like really into it, but with this one I was like hooked from the start. So I definitely need to continue this series whenever I can. Next, I read a book that I got sent for review, and I have talked about this book in my book haul. If you have not seen that yet, I will mention it now, obviously. And that book is Puppet by Pauline C. Harris. I do not have a review of this out yet, but I have filmed it. I am uploading it tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully I do, because I really need to get this review out. But anyway, this is a fairy tale retelling of Pinocchio, which drew my attention from the start, and I ended up really, really liking this a lot. I have to say, I did not see it as, while I was reading it, as a Pinocchio retelling at all, until the character ends up not being able to lie. And that was the part where I'm like, oh, now I see why it's a Pinocchio retelling, because I know it's about puppets, but like that wasn't enough for me. I still didn't see why, and then I got it. So that was a really, really like aha moment. Basically, this book is about a girl who gets adopted by this guy who is kind of like a scientist who wants to do experiments on her to turn her into a living marionette, like show her off to the world. But the only thing is that she gets like these new powers while becoming like this living marionette. She turns into someone who the government is afraid of, and they want to basically kill her, I guess. They want to like destroy her because they're afraid she's going to be a huge threat. And I just really, really, really like this. I will talk more about it in my review, obviously, but I give this one 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it a lot, and I definitely would recommend it. And the last book I read, I just finished like literally an hour ago, and that is All the Rage by Courtney Summers. This was my TBR jar pick of the month, which I'm really, really glad I finished it before I got my wrap up, because I am like determined to finish all my TBR jar picks for sure, and if I don't, I will feel like a huge failure. So I'm glad I finished this on time, like really, really happy I did. As for the book itself, it was a huge letdown, like really, really big letdown. Like I'll go into it. This book is really, really, well, it's not kind of popular right now. It just has really, really high ratings. Like if you look on Goodreads for this book, there are just like 5 stars and 4 stars on it. So going into this, I had really high expectations, but the book like really let me down. For one thing, the synopsis for this book is nothing like what the book is actually about at all. Like nothing. And that really threw me off so much and just left me confused. Like, I literally cannot even explain what this book is about to you guys, because even though I read it, I honestly have no idea. Like, that is just really sad. I have no idea. What I can kind of tell is this book is about a girl who is a victim of rape, and she becomes also a victim of like victim blaming for reasons like I literally cannot even get into because I don't understand. So enough of the synopsis. Just the problems I've had with this book is, I don't even know. There was so much lack of detail. I felt like there were plot holes. I felt like little for the characters, even though I know I should have, because the characters were going through so much. I won't say why exactly, because spoilers if you want to read this. Like, a lot was going around them, bad things were happening to them, but I felt nothing for them because I was just left confused. Like, that's all I say. I was confused by this book. That's all I really had to say about it. This is the worst wrap-up ever. So yeah, this one, big disappointment. Like, really big. I wish I loved it more, but really, this was so confusing, so over my head. There was no details about everything. I'll just move on. So I give this one 2 out of 5 stars. I was not a fan. And so that completes my wrap up for August. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll have my September TBR up tomorrow, so you can look out for that. And I need to leave because my camera is dying. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video really soon. Bye. I will have my not my July either. What is wrong with me? A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, not Moss. I keep saying Moss, but it's Mass. I need to stop doing that, and I finally caught myself this time. That is good. So anyway, I thought that in the beginning of these wrap-ups, I would start doing like I cannot say that word. I've decided that I'd start doing book statistics. And my dad is literally outside right now, so he's probably like watching me and wondering why the heck I'm talking to a camera. I don't know. That is embarrassing.